Welcome back. Today we're going to continue discussing geometric sequences. Now, just like arithmetic sequences, for the first day we talked about just the formulas themselves and finding a term. Now we're going to transition into the idea of what if I don't know consecutive terms? What if I'm missing a couple terms in the middle and I need to find that formula still? Well, don't forget the rule of thumb. Take whatever you know and plug it into the explicit formula. Okay? That's always your rule of thumb here. It'll help you find the missing piece so you can go back and officially write the explicit formula in terms of n. Now, what I'm talking about here is we have 3, missing term, and then 12. So I know my A1, but I don't know what the rate is. I can't tell the rate from this. So I'm going to plug in what I know to the explicit formula. I know A1. I know we're dealing with the third term, which is just a future term, okay? So a future term equals, now I'm dealing with the explicit formula here, A1 times the rate n minus 1, okay? So really what I'm talking about here is 12 equals 3r squared. Divide the 3, and now, well, how do we get rid of a second power? Well, to get rid of a second power, I'm going to have to square it, okay? So, or square root, I mean. So the square root of 4 is 2. So here, now I have my rate of 2, all right? So now that I have the rate of 2, now I can officially form the explicit formula. I have my first term. I know my rate to the n minus 1 power. So it's actually relatively simple. Again, all you're doing is plugging in what you've got, plugging what you know to the explicit formula to find whatever you're missing. And in these examples, we're missing the rate. And then just going from there. So now it wants the sixth term. So 3 times 2, 6 minus 1 is 5. So all I have to do is plug that into my calculator. 3 times 2 to the 5th power. And my answer is 96. So again, I really don't picture you having too much trouble with these sequences. All you have to remember is to plug in to find what you don't know. So here, my first term is 2. This is my future term and is in the 4th position. So my n is going to be 4. So I know everything except r. Okay, I don't know what r is. So let's find it. So my future term is going to equal the first term times whatever that rate is to the n minus 1, to the 4 minus 1 power. So negative 54 equals 2r to the third. Divide by 2. So negative 27 equals r cubed. Now, you guys hopefully remember back from chapter 6, how do I undo a cube? Well, I undo a cube by taking a cube root. Okay? So cube root the 27, or the negative 27. Now, if you don't remember it off the top of your head, just go into math, and you can cube root negative 27, okay, and get negative 3. So if you need, you can use the calculator. Otherwise, that powers chart can still assist you with these. So cube root negative 27, my r is going to be negative 3 when I cube root that. All right. So what does that give me? Well, that gives me my explicit formula. Starting with 2, and now I have a rate of negative 3. I want the sixth term. So a to the 6 is going to be 2, negative 3. 6 minus 1 gives me 5. So let's calculate that now. 2 times negative 3 to the fifth, to the fifth power. What is going on here? Sorry, I'm just going to start fresh. 2 times negative 3 to the fifth power. Negative 486. All right, let's look at our next one. So here we have our first term, we have our future term, and our n is 4. Our future term is in the 4th position. Okay, so let's use that knowledge and realize that the only thing we're missing is r. So let's plug this in. That future term is going to be the first term times the rate to the n minus 1 power. So I'm going to divide by that 500. So 4 divided by 500 is going to be 0.008. To get rid of a cube, to get rid of that cube, I need to cube root. Okay, so I need the cube root of that 0.008. So I'm going to go into math. Cube root 0.008. The cube root of 0.008 is going to be 0.2. So my rate is going to be 0.2. So what that tells me is my explicit formula is going to be the first term, which is 500, times that rate to the n minus 1. So that is my explicit formula. And they want me to use it to find the sixth term. 6 minus 1 gives me 5. So let's plug that into the calculator. 500 times 0.2 to the fifth power, that gives me 0.16. So my answer, the sixth term, is 0.16. And again, because it's a terminating decimal, it's acceptable that I leave it like that. It's acceptable that I report the answer as a decimal. All right, let's try this next one. So, same thing. I have my first term. I have my future term, making my n equal to 5. So, let's take a look at this. My future term equals my first term times r to the n minus 1. So r to the 4. So 0.4 divided by 250. That looks like it's going to be a really small number. 0.4 divided by 250. 0.0016. All right, and I need to take the fourth root of this now, okay? I need the fourth root of 0.0016. Now, in the calculator, if you notice, when I go to that math menu, there is no fourth root showing, okay? But there is this special thing right here. So if you want to take a fourth root, what you need to do is actually go backwards, type in 4 first, and that'll turn it into a fourth root when you click that button, okay? So you have to put the 4 first, click that strange button, and then it'll make it a fourth root for you, okay? And if I take the fourth root of 0.0016, it'll give me 0.2. So my rate, once again, is 0.2. So my explicit formula is my first term times that 0.2 to the n minus 1 power. And if I'm looking for a 6, I just plug 6 in for n. 6 minus 1 gives me 5. Let's plug that into the calculator and see what we get. So 250 times 0.2 to the 5th power. And that's going to give me 0.08. Okay, so my 6th term is going to be 0.08. So that's the skill of finding these when you need to find R first. All right. Now, just like we found the arithmetic mean, there actually is something called a geometric mean as well. Okay. Now the geometric mean, all it is the square root of those two things multiplied. So this is when you're missing a middle term, okay? This is when you have sequential terms and you're missing the middle one. Now, there is one little caveat to this, something that they've forgotten, is technically is going to be plus or minus, because you don't know. It could be an alternating series. You're not sure. So because you're not sure, you do have to take it into account and include the plus or minus to say, hey, I don't know. It could be either one. So once you recognize the situation that you can use the geometric mean, it's actually really simple to use. So here, if I want the geometric mean, I want to find that missing number. I just take 48 times 3. So this is plus or minus the square root of 144. And the square root of 144 is 12. So that missing term is either going to be 12 or negative 12. Okay, we're not sure which one because we don't know if it's alternating or not yet. All right, this one, 2.5 times 90. So plus or minus 2.5 times 90 gives me plus or minus 225. Square root of that gives you 15. All right, don't forget this weird notation. Okay, this is telling you you have a term that you're looking for. The term previous to it is negative 5. And the next term is negative 80. So don't forget that weird notation. If it comes off of the MCA or the ACT, be familiar with how to maneuver when they give you n plus 1s or n plus 2s, n minus 1s, anything like that. So here, negative 5 times negative 80 gives us plus or minus 400. So that missing term is going to be plus or minus 20. Same thing here. So plus or minus 40 times 3.6 equals plus or minus the square root of 144, which we already did, is plus or minus 12. Or they could give you in words. Your ninth term is 45. You don't know the 10th, but you know the 11th term. So all you're doing is you're missing the term in the middle. So you use the geometric mean. 45 times 80. Well, 45 times 80 is plus or minus the square root of 300 or 3,600. And when you square root that, you get plus or minus 60. So, what I want you to do to think about is one of those examples on the first slide could have been done this way. And just to simplify the process, when I was asking you to form the equation, I neglected the plus or minus. I want you to go back and look for which one. That's going to be what I want in the summary, is describe which one from that first page I could have done this way to find that term and then construct it that way. All right? And yes, I realize in the process I neglected the plus or minus on the front page, but that just would have been above confusing for an early example. So go back, think about that. And another thing is why the plus or minus. Think about why in this geometric mean you need the plus or minus. So think about both of those things for me and write those in the summary and then come back ready to do your practice work.